are now having a little look at this morning 10 minutes of trying to do nothing, or trying to have a little tap into some meditation or some breathing work. So yeah, a little bit different, and you can just find a really comfy seated position. So whether that's lying down, finding a comfy seated position, you can have like a cushion underneath where you're sitting, anything at all. You could use an eye pillow, you could be super indulgent, blankets, full Savasana. So Savasana is what we do at the end of our sessions usually, and it's just a bit of time to allow the body to almost catch up to what we've done in the session before. And it's also a great opportunity for you just to, just give yourself a break, give yourself some time maybe to reflect on what you've done in the day or what you're about to do for the evening or the day ahead. So there's a lot of things that we can do to help the body do nothing, because it is pretty tricky. So we're just going to start by finding a comfy seated position, whatever that position is for you. And once you're there, you can close the eyes, or if you don't feel confident in closing the eyes, just maybe drop the gaze down. And you don't have to necessarily worry about how you're sitting right now, so just getting in a position, closing the eyes, just dropping the gaze down, or of course if you're lying down, even better. And just give yourself a moment, maybe notice what you're thinking about now. So it's not about telling yourself off or thinking about things. Notice what the thought is, what you're thinking about, maybe why you're thinking about it. And then see if you can just now start to become a bit more aware of your breath. So, which I know does sound quite hippie, but stick with it. So with your breath, maybe you can listen to your breath. So if you were sat in a quite quiet room, maybe you can listen to the breath. You can also help yourself to listen to the breath by just restricting the throat slightly. So it's almost like a soft type of Ujjayi breathing, just a really, really soft. Or if you're struggling to hear your breath, maybe you can notice the movement of your breath. So maybe you can feel the breath in your chest or your shoulders, or maybe even your throat. Just maybe tune in towards that movement, or maybe you can feel it within the belly. And just notice the movement, even if it's super, super tiny. And what we're trying to do here is trying to occupy the mind. So especially if your mind is racing and you've got a lot of things to do, especially in the morning, I find it quite tricky, especially when I want to try and get on and do things. The mind is constantly telling me what I should be doing, when I should be doing it, what I need to remember. But actually, what we're trying to do is just occupy the mind with the breath. Keep the mind busy with just breathing. So once you've found your rhythm of breath, so whether that's listening to the breath or whether that's noticing the movement of your breathing, let's see if we can make the quality of breath a little bit better. So to do this, we can start by seeing if you can sit a little taller if you're seated. If you're lying down, you can just keep following that pattern of breath that you found. And we want to see if we can get the breath to the bottom of the lungs. So if it helps, you can kind of visualize, follow the journey of the breath as it enters the body. So as you breathe in, either through the nose or the mouth, whatever you find better, bring that breath all the way through the chest. Follow it all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. And as you exhale, follow the exhale. So see if you can visualize that breath leaving the lungs, up through the airway, and then either out through the mouth or through the nose. And just do this for a couple of rounds. See if we can really fill up those lungs, and see if we can completely empty the lungs. And if the mind is starting to wander, which it probably is at this point, starting to think about breakfast or your next cup of coffee or what you need to do in the morning, so see if you can really focus that breath in towards the sound, the movement of your breath. And then seeing if you can stop at any time, just if you just want to focus on that breathing. See if you can just sit a little taller. Allow the shoulders just to fall away from the ears. Ideally, you want the hips a little higher, so you can stack another cushion underneath the hips, or you can just stay as you are if you don't want to disrupt the breathing too much. And then just to start the day, we can just do a few checks. So just notice how the body's feeling. What sensations can you feel on the skin? Maybe your temperature, how you're feeling. Are there any areas that feel a bit tight, a bit sore, a bit tired? And then check in with how you're feeling mentally. So perhaps, is the mind quite persistent this morning? Have you got a lot of thoughts running through? Is there something you need to do, something you're a bit anxious to do? Or are you feeling all right? And whatever that is that you're feeling, both physically and like maybe emotionally or whether mentally as well, it's important not to judge or to cast your own perception on that. It is what it is, and that's the hardest thing. And if it is anxiety or a little bit, feeling a bit of worry, see if you can just really concentrate on that breath. Find a bit of space. Give yourself a bit of space between you and that worry or you and that anxiety. And perhaps it might be useful to walk through the day that you have planned ahead. So I'd always like to, for me it helps me imagine that I'm looking at myself from like a bird's eye view. And I'm like watching almost myself walk through the day that I have planned ahead. And if I come across anything that could be quite tense or stressful, I kind of just take a nice deep breath in. Just allow it all out, exhale, and then just try and move on. So I'm not dwelling too much on one specific point of the day. Noticing if your breath's changed as you're thinking about certain aspects of the day, or whether the body position's changed. So if you can just really find that tall seated or just that comfy lying down position, that open position. Following your breath now, so now forgetting what you have today, bring yourself back to what you're doing now. Knowing that you've reflected on how the body's felt and feeling. You've kind of visualised and thought about what you're doing ahead today. And now bring yourself back to now. Maybe even softening the forehead. If the eyes are moving around quite quickly behind the eyelids, see if you can just still them for a moment. Then become aware of the movement of the breath again. Maybe even exaggerate it slightly just for a couple of rounds. Filling up the lungs and emptying the lungs, that's all we're doing. If you're lying down, maybe bringing yourself to a comfy seated position. if we're sat. Maybe starting to blink the eyes open if they're closed. Just holding on to maybe what you're feeling, noticing if you're feeling maybe a little calmer, or got a bit of space, or maybe you feel a bit clearer about something, or maybe you're not feeling that great. That's okay too. And on our next inhale, just reaching the arms up. Let's really expand the arms, reaching in. Meet the hands together at the top as you exhale, the hands down towards your chest. Thank you very much. I hope you have a good day, and we'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m.